Today we're going to take a look at the ClipperCreek HCS-40P electric vehicle charging station. It's one of the most popular choices among EV owners today. We're going to give it our cable deep freeze test. We're going to show you a video of it being beaten with a baseball bat and a hammer to prove just how tough it is. We're going to show you how to install the unit, how the remote connector holster works, and then we're going to compare it to some other popular home charging equipment. We'll finish up by putting it to the test of our ChargerRater and then offering a final score based on a 5-star system. But first, don't forget, tap that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you don't miss any upcoming content here on State of Charge. ClipperCreek has been making electric vehicle charging equipment since 2006. They have been pioneers in this industry. Now, they're not known for making low-cost, budget electric vehicle charging equipment. So if that's what you're looking for, this isn't the charger for you. Go look on Amazon for something from some company that just started a couple months ago and maybe will be out of business in 6 months. ClipperCreek has been here since 2006. They actually were the manufacturers that were selected to make the original home charging equipment for the Tesla Roadster, which is pretty much the first modern EV that came out of this latest wave of the EV evolution back in 2008 when it launched. Now, ClipperCreek is known for making high quality, extremely durable products that are all safety certified and backed with really good warranties. They're also all made in the USA. That's important to some people. This is an American company. They're based in California and they make all their products here in the USA. Now, ClipperCreek also has the widest variety of home charging equipment of any company. They literally have dozens of different versions, some of them different power levels. They all come in either hardwired version or plug-in versions, and then they also offer 2 different plugs, the NEMA 1450 or NEMA 650. Most companies don't have such a wide variety. Most companies that are selling EV chargers today sell like 1 or 2 units. ClipperCreek literally has dozens of different units. I selected the HCS-40P because I think it's probably their most popular unit, and I know it's one of the units that I get asked the most about here on this channel. It's a 32 amp charger. It can deliver 7.7 kilowatts to the electric vehicle. That's good for somewhere between 24 and 30 miles of range per hour, depending on how efficient your EV is. The HCS-40P is not a smart charger. In fact, ClipperCreek does not make smart chargers. They just make basic chargers that plug and play. They work really well and they're tough. The HCS-40P is NEMA 4 rated for extra protection against blowing wind and rain. So this is a really good unit for installing outdoors. It's also Energy Star listed, so it's very efficient. When it's not being used, it doesn't waste much energy. And it's UL listed also. As I mentioned earlier, all ClipperCreek products are safety certified. It comes with a 25-foot long cable, which is the longest cable available on any home charging equipment today. It has an interesting lip on the top of the unit that holds the cable in. It's a pretty tall lip, so you can loop the cable around the unit as many times as you want and it's not going to fall over. And it has this unique remote connector holster. It's a little bit different than the connector holsters that we normally see because it's side mounted. We'll be doing going into a little bit of a deeper review on this later on once we have it mounted on the wall. The HCS-40P, as I mentioned earlier, is super tough. To prove that, ClipperCreek actually took one out to the parking lot where they make the units and let their employees beat one with a mallet, a hammer, and a baseball bat. And what happened was the mallet and the hammer, the mallet and the baseball bat both broke while they were doing this test, and the HCS-40P survived it without a scratch. That's because they use airline grade plastic on this. And these are built to last. I know people that have ClipperCreek products that are more than 10 years old and they still use them to charge their EVs every day with. This is the type of unit that's built to last. It's time to perform the cable deep freeze test on the ClipperCreek HCS-40P. Now inside this freezer, I placed the ClipperCreek HCS-40P about 18 hours ago. This is an ice cream freezer. It's colder than a regular freezer. It gets down well below zero because ice cream needs to be held at a temperature below 32 degrees. It actually has to be stored below zero. I'm going to take the temperature of the ClipperCreek unit now to show you just how cold it is. We're then going to lift it out and I'm going to unravel the cable and see how easy it is to ravel back up. Basically, how bendable and flexible the cable is. Now, if you live in Miami or San Diego, this might not make any difference to you. So this isn't something that every electric vehicle owner needs to be concerned with. But if you live in the northern states, and particularly if you mount your charger outside, it's important to know how flexible the cable is going to be when it's really cold. Imagine your car's charging overnight outside and you get up in the morning, you're leaving for work. Now you've got to unplug the car and you've got to kind of roll the cable back up and holster the connector. If it's frozen like if it's solid like a frozen rope, it becomes very difficult to manage and it doesn't make a great charging experience. So first let's take a look at how cold it is and then we're going to see how well the cable performs. Okay, we have negative 14.5 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's cold in there. Now let's see how it works. Put that over there. Okay, initial impressions are that it's not doing well. You don't want to see that. You want to see this dangling nicely, and you can even hear it cracking. So let's see when we unravel the cable how easy it is to bend it back. Okay, it's pretty stiff. You see, this is typically what we don't want to see. We don't want to see the cable retain the form that it was when it was frozen. This means it's going to be very hard to bend back. Now I'm going to try to put it in large loops around the charger, but I'm thinking that it's not going to want to comply because this is not a great cold weather cable. So I'm going to pretty much give up on that. This is not the worst cable we've tested, but it's close to it. It's not going to get any extra points for cold weather pliability. ClipperCreek HCS-40P, that's a fail on the cold weather cable test. So the unit's had about 45 minutes now to warm up, and as you can see, the cable is acting a lot differently. We don't expect it to perform this well when it's frozen, but it should do a little bit better than what we observed. The ClipperCreek HCS-40 has an orange LED power indicator on the front of the unit. When you plug in an electric vehicle, a green charging light lights up. Now there are also two other lights to indicate either a power fault or a charging fault. ClipperCreek also provides a nice little lock with their charging stations, and that's to lock the connector to the car. You might notice there's a hole in the button here on the top of the connector. Many connectors have a hole there, not all of them, but many do. And the reason that's there is so that you can put a tiny little lock in that. Now you wouldn't need to do that if you're charging in your own private garage because nobody's going to unplug you in your garage. Well, I hope not. But if you do have it mounted outside, some people install these at workplace charging, and you put this little lock in the connector there, it prevents somebody from unplugging your car. Some electric cars will automatically lock the connector to the car while it's charging and the doors are locked, but some don't. And if you have an EV that doesn't lock the connector to the car, somebody can come along and unplug you at any time. So having this little lock could be handy if you're charging your car out in the public where other people can walk by. The other thing I'd like to mention about ClipperCreek is their nomenclature, how they name the chargers. Now, as I mentioned, this is called the HCS-40P. The P at the end of the product number means that it's a plug-in unit, and this is a plug-in unit. Comes in either the NEMA 650 or the NEMA 1450 plug. You can also get it in the hardwired unit, and then it wouldn't have the P at the end of it. But what I'm really want to explain is that the numbering system. Now, this is the HCS-40P. That number indicates the circuit that the charger needs to be installed on. This needs to be installed on a 40 amp circuit. It's a 32 amp charger that can deliver 7.7 kilowatts to the car, and it needs to be installed on a 40 amp circuit. The reason why I'm bringing this up is most other electric car charging companies that sell chargers, the number that they have in their product name is the amount of amps that the charger can deliver to the vehicle. In this case, it's not. It's the circuit that it's on, and the circuit that the charger needs to be installed on is always higher than the amperage it can deliver. It's actually 125% higher, well, 25% higher, because you can only have a charger deliver 80% of the rated circuit. So if this needs to be installed on a 40 amp circuit, it can deliver 32 amps. If you have a 40 amp charger, it needs to be installed on a 50 amp circuit, 80% of the circuit's maximum rating. I'm bringing this up because if you're cross-shopping, let's say you're cross-shopping the ClipperCreek HCS-40P to the Juicebox 40. You might think they both deliver the same amount of power, but they don't. The Juicebox will actually deliver 40 amps, and the ClipperCreek product will only deliver 32. If you were cross-shopping this, you would cross-shop it with the NLX Juicebox 32, even though this is the ClipperCreek HCS-40. That's why I'm bringing that up. Most of the other charging companies, the number that they have listed in the product name is actually the amount of amps that it delivers. Not all, but most of them. So what you want to do is look at the product description if you're cross-shopping to make sure that you're comparing apples to apples, because ClipperCreek has that nomenclature where they're telling you the circuit that the charger needs to be installed on, and that's rare in this industry. Usually in the product name, if there's a number, that's the amperage that the charger can deliver. Installing the HCS-40P is a breeze. You simply screw it to the wall and plug it in. Now, there's only two screws that you need. One at the top of the unit, and then there's another one at the bottom that runs down the center of the unit. So what you want to try to do is locate it on a stud. If you can't, then you need some serious drywall anchors, because the unit is heavy, and don't forget, you also drape the cable around it, so it's going to make it even heavier. ClipperCreek provides you with these giant 3.5-inch lag bolts that will do the trick for sure. They also provide these plastic angled washers. Now, why are they angled? Well, it's angled because they allow you to slide it into a groove here. It snaps into a groove there, and now when you screw in the lag bolt, it's on an angle out, and it makes it easier because it has this big lip here for the cable management. If you have it in a different position, it might be hard to screw in. Now, if you don't need that, you can turn this washer around and then screw it straight in. You can still get your wrench in there to tighten this thing up, but it's a little bit harder, and I like the fact that ClipperCreek thought about that and gave you these angled washers to make the installation a little bit easier. Once you've mounted the unit to the wall, you simply plug it into the NEMA 1450 or 650 outlet that you've previously installed. So let's take a quick look at the ClipperCreek HCS-40P's connector holster, which is this one right here. Now, electric vehicle chargers either have integrated connector holsters or remote connector holsters. These are remote connector holsters because they're not integrated into the body of the charger. Now, I put up here the ChargePoint Home Flex and the NLX Juicebox to show examples of integrated connector holsters. If you could take a look at the ClipperCreek HCS-40, there's nowhere to holster the connector. So what they provide you with is a remote connector holster, and it's not that uncommon. In fact, I think there's probably more chargers that give you remote connector holsters than there are that have integrated connector holsters. But the unique thing about the ClipperCreek's connector holster is it's side mounted. The charger gets mounted on the wall like this, and you put the connector in like this. Now, all of the other connector holsters have front loading holsters where you put this on the wall and this goes in like this. They all the other companies have that type of a design. They also have this lip on the front so you can drape the cable around it. As you notice, they all have it. But for ClipperCreek, this unit does not have a little lip where you can drape the cable over. If you try to put the cable over this, it's going to fall off. That could be inconvenient for some people. Some people like to put their remote connector holster far from the main body of the unit. They might install this on the wall here, but then on another wall, right next to the charge port where they back into their garage, they put the connector holster so they can just get out of the car, grab the connector and plug it in, and then plug it back into the connector holster. In that case, it could be convenient to have a lip on the top to drape some of the cable around there if you need to. It's not a deal breaker, but it might be a better design if they had some sort of a lip coming off the top of this. Now, I've seen some people that had this same issue and they went out and bought, like for $5, a garden hose reel, and they put it on the wall next to this so that they just loop the cable around that. So it's not like you can't get around that, but I should point out the differences in these remote connector holsters. There's advantages and disadvantages of both designs. So as you can see, we have the connector holster mounted to the wall. One of the things we like to check is how easy it is to holster the connector. Some connector holsters, we find that we have to almost be perfect when we're putting it in the slot. Otherwise, the connector won't latch. We didn't find that to be the case with the ClipperCreek unit. It works fairly well. Almost any way we take the connector and put it in the hole, it very easily latches. It's not perfect. Some of the connector holsters we've noticed really guide it in perfectly. This doesn't do that, but it still is very easy to latch. And the other thing we notice is because it has this long cover for the connector, you'll notice the end of the connector is way up at the top. That's going to protect it really well from any kind of blowing rain or snow, making this a pretty good connector holster if you're going to be mounting your charger outside. This is actually one of the better connector holsters for outdoor installation because it's really going to protect your connector very well. Okay, let's do a quick comparison of the connectors and the cables. On the end here, we have the ChargePoint Home Flex. It has one of the best connectors that we've ever tested here. It has a rubberized grip. It's really solid and heavy. It feels extremely well built. And the cable is actually the best cable on any home charger that we've ever tested. It's really rubberized. It remained flexible even after we did the cold weather deep freeze test. The cable thickness is also about average, so the cable isn't really unwieldy to work with. Next up is the ClipperCreek HCS-40Ps. The cable is about the same thickness as the ChargePoints, and in warm weather, it's really nice and flexible. It's kind of rubberized. It feels great. Unfortunately, it didn't do too great when we froze it. The connector is okay. I give it about a C. It's really plasticky, doesn't have any type of rubberized grip. ClipperCreek does sell a rubberized grip connector, which is much better, but you have to buy, it's called the ruggedized unit. It costs about $100 more, and it's really meant for commercial use where the things are going to get really beaten up badly. They give you this tougher connector, a better cable. They also extend the warranty from 3 years to 5 years. It's a really good choice if you're doing a commercial setup and maybe you're charging your fleets and it's outside and the equipment gets beat up. But the standard connector that they give you on the ClipperCreek products, it's an average connector. It's not great. It's a little plasticky. I don't really love the feel in my hand. The Pulsar Plus from Wallbox has a really good connector. It's hard to tell from the video, it's also rubberized. It has a really good grip in your hand. It's very similar to the ChargePoint Home Flex connector. It's probably my second favorite connector that I've used so far. And again, it feels really strongly built. Their cable is also maybe slightly thinner than that of the ClipperCreek and ChargePoint Home Flex, but it's more plasticky, not rubberized. It doesn't bend nearly as well, and it also didn't perform well in the Charger deep freeze test. Next up is the Grizzle E. I'm not a fan of the connector. It's really small. It's plasticky. It doesn't feel like it's as well built as some of these other connectors, and their cable is extremely thick and difficult to work with sometimes. But it performed pretty well in the cable deep freeze test. It's made for outdoor use. And it's a tough cable. It's made to be run over by trucks and cars and use it outside. United Chargers, who builds the Grizzle E, really focused on toughness more than usability with it. So it can be a little difficult to work with, but it's a really tough cable, and that's what they went for. On the end here is the NLX juice box. It has a real plasticky cover to their cable instead of rubberized. It's the least bendable of any of the cables we have. I'm definitely not a fan. It's the weak point on the NLX juice box line as far as I'm concerned. The connector is made by ITT. It's a popular connector. This is used by a lot of brands. It's a really tough, robust connector, lasts a long time. Again, it's not rubberized. It does have some grip on the bottom here that it helps it from sliding off your hand. One of the things I don't like about some of these real plasticky connectors is they feel like they can slide out of your hand. There's nothing to grab onto. The ITT connector is okay. So, you know, we're really here to talk about the ClipperCreek HCS-40Ps, and it has, I'd say, average cable, average connector. Nothing above normal, but it's not terrible either. It's not going to, the cable and connector isn't really going to hurt the ClipperCreek in our chart, in our final score, but it's not going to help it either. So I thought we'd do a quick comparison to some of the other very popular home chargers on the market today. Of course, here we have the ClipperCreek HCS-40P. It's a 32 amp non-smart charger, and it costs $589. If you get it without the plug, it's $24 less. Next to it here is the Wallbox Pulsar Plus. I purposely put it next to the ClipperCreek so you could see the difference in size. The Wallbox Pulsar Plus is probably the smallest EV charger available on the market today, and the ClipperCreek is one of the largest. So just want to give you a little idea of the real estate that it takes up on your wall. Now this is a smart charger, a 40 amp smart charger, and it costs $649. Next to it is the Grizzle E. It's a 40 amp non-smart charger. Like the ClipperCreek is, it's not Wi-Fi connected, it doesn't come with an app. It just, you plug it in and it charges your car. This is a real deal at $399. Next to it is the NLX Juice Box 32. It's also a 32 amp charger like the ClipperCreek is, and it costs the same price, $589. But it's Wi-Fi enabled and it comes with an app and it has smart charging features. Over on the other side here, we have the ChargePoint Home Flex. It's a 50 amp Wi-Fi connected smart charger. That costs $699. It's powerful, it comes with a lot of options, but it's expensive. And all the way over on the end is the Tesla wall connector. That's a 48 amp smart charger that needs to be hardwired. It's directly wired and it doesn't come with a plug, so that's not optional. And you would really only want to get this if you had a Tesla, because it uses the proprietary Tesla connector. Now you can use adapters to charge your electric car with it, but we don't recommend that you're using an adapter every day. If you don't have a Tesla, it probably isn't the best charger for you to get. If you do have a Tesla, it's a pretty good choice. It only costs $500 and it's a high-powered Wi-Fi connected smart charger. Well, that wraps up the review of the ClipperCreek HCS-40P. It's now time to give it our ratings. We do that in two parts. First part is our ChargerRater, which is a point-based system that is basically 5 categories. In each category, the charger starts out with 15 points. We then add or subtract points depending on the features that it has and whether it passed our tests, whether we like certain aspects of it or not. That all gets added up and we use it to provide us with a 5-star rating. I then add my own personal 5-star rating because there are things that just can't be quantified. For instance, with ClipperCreek, the lineage of the company, the fact that they've been around so long and that I know for a fact they provide excellent customer service and that their products are top-notch. You can't really quantify that on a point-based scale, so that's going to factor in my personal rating. Then I combine the two ratings for a final score. So let's start off with the ChargerRater now. The first section is cost and value. Now each section, as I mentioned, starts out with 15 points and then we add and subtract points. So for cost and value, the first line item is cost. Now we base it on a $500 cost, and the Charger then loses or gains points for every $50 more or less than $500. The HCS-40P costs $589, so it loses 1 point there. Now for value, it gains a point because I think all things considered, $589 is a good value for this charger. So it finishes up the cost and value section with a total of 15 points. Next up is power and weatherproofing. The first line item is power delivery. Now we base that on a charger that can deliver 10 kilowatts, and it loses a point for every kilowatt less than 10 that it can deliver. In this case, the ClipperCreek HCS-40 can deliver 7.7 kilowatts. We round that up to 8, so it loses 2 points. The reason why we base it on 10 kilowatts is because in today's market, I think a 40 amp charger that can deliver 10 kilowatts is pretty much the industry standard. Now the ClipperCreek does sell an HCS-50 that can deliver a total of 10 kilowatts and 40 amps to the vehicle, but we didn't review that today. Next up is the adjustable power. Is the charger, does it have adjustable power? No, the ClipperCreek is not a smart charger. It cannot. It doesn't get any extra points there. The NEMA rating, the ClipperCreek HCS-40P is NEMA 4 rated, so it gets an extra 2 points because that's an excellent NEMA rating. It allows for weatherproofing for blowing snow and driving rain. It can even withstand the force of a direct blast from a garden hose. So it's pretty much as good as you can get for an outdoor rating with an electric car charger. Next up, Energy Star certified. Yes, the ClipperCreek HCS-40P is Energy Star certified, meaning that it does not waste energy when it's not in use. Does it have automatic restart? Yes, it does. It gets another point there. What I do is while the car is charging with the chargers, I shut off the circuit breaker. I let it wait for a couple of minutes, then I flip it back on to make sure that the charger will automatically restart and start charging the car. Not all chargers do that, but the ClipperCreek did. So we finish up the power and weatherproofing rating section with 17 points. Next up is construction and durability. First line item is connector holster. It gets 1 extra point for a good connector holster. It's not an excellent connector holster, but it is a very good design and excellent for outdoor use. I just wish it had a little tab on the top so that you can drape the cable over it. Gets 1 point there. Cable length. It gets an extra point there because cables that are longer than 20 feet long get an extra point. The ClipperCreek HCS-40P has a 25-foot long cable. That's pretty much the longest cable that you're going to find on any electric car charging equipment. Next up, cable pliability. Well, you saw the cable deep freeze test. It's getting dinged for a point there. It's losing 1 point because the cable actually performed below average when it was frozen for more than 12 hours. Next up, robust construction. Yes, this is about as robust a charger as you're going to get. Gets an extra point there. Next up, plug-in or hardwired. If the units are available in both plug-in and hardwired versions, they don't get any extra points. And in this case, that's the case. If it was only available in a hardwired charger, it would lose 2 points. No points there. Ease of installation, it doesn't get any extra points because I believe the charger should be simple to install. If they're difficult to install, they lose a point. So it finishes up the construction and durability section with 17 points. Next up is smart and non-smart. The ClipperCreek HCS-40P is not a smart charger. I'm not going to go over each line there because it doesn't get any points. It does finish with 15 points because that's what the chargers all start off each category with. Finally, we're going to do safety certified and warranty. Is this unit safety certified? Yes, it is. It doesn't get any extra points for that because I believe all chargers should be safety certified. If it's not safety certified, it loses 5 points. It takes a big hit. Again, no points lost here. Next up, warranty. The ClipperCreek HCS-40P has a 3-year warranty. So it gets an extra 2 points. Finishes up the safety certified and warranty category with 17 points. That gives the ClipperCreek HCS-40P a grand total of 81 points in our ChargerRater. That's good enough for 4.05 stars out of 5. Now, my score is up next. I'm a little bit more kind to the ClipperCreek HCS-40P because, like I said earlier, I can take into considerations that something that a spreadsheet can't. ClipperCreek is a very well-established company that's been around forever, and as I mentioned, they have great customer service. They build really well-built chargers, and they back them up with good warranties. I'm going to give the ClipperCreek HCS-40P 4.55 stars out of 5. And the unit is then going to finish up with a total of 4.3 stars out of 5. Very respectable score for the ClipperCreek HCS-40P. Now, as I mentioned earlier, ClipperCreek sells a lot of products. This might not be the particular one that you're interested, but head over to the website and take a look. You might want a charger that can deliver more power or less power. Like I said, they have a charger for every need. No other company provides as many different variants of electric car charging as ClipperCreek does. The one thing to consider is they don't sell smart chargers. If you're interested in having an app with Wi-Fi connection where you can control the charger, where you can link it to your smart home and say, hey, Alexa, start charging my car, which some chargers have the ability to do that, you're not going to get that with ClipperCreek. What you're going to get is a really well-built, made-in-America charger that can withstand time and is backed by a good warranty and a company that provides very good customer service. That's it for our review today. Let us know if you have ClipperCreek products, what your experience was. Leave them in the comment section below. We'll open up a little conversation about ClipperCreek and how good or bad their units are. And don't forget, please click that subscribe button, tap the notification bell so you don't miss any upcoming electric vehicle and electric car charge reviews here on State of Charge.